Hey, what's crackin', fellas? It's Entei bringing you Sip of the Kraken Cup for week 2. As always, these videos are hopefully going to be more concise and highlight driven, so if you're looking for a more intuitive breakdown, or intensive breakdown I should say, and want a deeper dive on each matchup and how each coach performed, definitely go check out the description and click on the Word document link, which is hopefully going to be exactly what you're looking for, because I'm going to be breaking down each matchup much more in depth and talking about the general performance and what could have happened differently. So if that's more your cup of tea, go check that out, but otherwise let's jump right into this video. First, looking at results. This was a conference week, so each division played the other division in the conference. So Hydreigon played Komo-O and Tyranitar played Goodra. As you can see, this was a good week for Goodra. 3 of the 4 coaches got a win, except for the Po-Town Nickit, which, it should be noted, only lost due to a forfeit. Maybe he would have lost anyways, it's really hard to say, but still a nice week for the Goodra division. And on the other side, the Hydreigon and Komo-O divisions split the games 2-2, with the Undead Legion and Roservators getting a W, and the Halifax Hydreigons and East Coast Excadrill getting a W. And again, I have to say that the Halifax Hydreigons got a forfeit versus the San Diego Wild Chargers, so again, hard to say what might have happened. But with that in mind, this is last week's standings and this is this week's standings, so things are largely the same. The Undead Legion and East Coast Excadrill are still comfortably ahead of the rest of the division, the rest of their divisions. However, the Chicago Flashfire dropped to 3rd, and now the Raleigh Rotoms are the division leader. And in the Goodra division, the Cape Town Crocodiles and Boston Bisharps are neck and neck, both 2-0 with +7 differential, so that will be fascinating to watch going deeper into the season. But let's just jump right into superlatives, starting with best match, which is going to the Cape Town Crocodiles versus the Raleigh Rotoms. Like I said last week, I want these showcased games to be matches that really kept me on the edge of my seat, because there was a lot of back and forth and I was never sure who was going to win. And interestingly, there wasn't a lot of that this week. It seemed like every coach that won was in control of the match for pretty much the entirety of it, and there was nothing the opponent could do. So that was interesting, but this match was the one exception to that, because it looked like Pokeboy had it at the beginning and made a lot of nice predictions and had its Bruno on the ropes. However, the Cape Town Crocodiles clawed their way back into it and actually managed to get the W. So definitely credit to It's Bruno for sticking with it and keeping his head clear. And thank you to both of you coaches for putting on such a fun match. Next, we got best performance. My hand is pretty forced here. It has to go to Krakenation and how he dominated Pisces. I gave the Chicago Flashfire the #1 seed in the power rankings because I thought they were deserving of it, but Krakenation just completely dismantled the Chicago Flashfire. It was almost horrifying to watch. He was able to make the safe play every single turn. He didn't have to predict anything and still cruised through to a 3-0 win, I think, which is like unheard of, and it's all credit to his team building. He crafted the perfect team to take on Pisces and just knocked his block off. So this has to go to Krakenation. There's no one else deserving of it, or no one else as deserving of it this week at least. So fine, it goes to Krakenation. Hopefully no more of that, because I don't want his ego getting any more swollen than it already is. So let's just move on. Ah, Jesus. Best turnaround is going to Free. Again, my hand is forced here. Free got 6-0'd last week, and now this week he got a 6-0. So if that's not a textbook turnaround, I don't know what the heck is. Definitely congratulations to Free, and well done in your performance versus the Carolina Cinderaces. It was fun to watch a Hail team actually manage to do well, and I am rooting for you, my dude, even though, I mean, Ice is my favorite type. Even though it's trash and Hail is garbage, I'm still rooting for you and I believe in you, and you are definitely deserving of the best turnaround, so congratulations. And finally, the Pokemon Spotlight. Why it looks like that, I'm not altogether sure. That's kind of freaking me out a little bit. But anyways, the Pokemon Spotlight is a Pokemon who featured a interesting set or came up super clutch. And again, there actually wasn't a lot of creative. That sounds like an insult, but there wasn't a lot of like super creative sets. Like in week 1, there was Special Flygon with no stab and Bug Buzz, which is obviously unheard of. So there wasn't anything at that level this week. However, the one exception to that, I think, is Haxorus, because of how it had first impression and caught Krakenation totally off guard. I just finished talking about how Krakenation obliterated Pisces, but this Haxorus definitely threw a wrench in things, so that was really cool to see. And yeah, for that reason, Haxorus gets the Pokemon Spotlight. But let's just go into power rankings. I want to breeze through these because I think they're super arbitrary and are not indicative of anything, really. They're really not, but they seem like a fan favorite, and for that reason, I'm going to keep bringing them, but just take it with a grain of salt, all right? Don't worry too much about your power ranking. So this was the power rankings for last week, and actually this is more of a draft ranking, because I had never seen any of you play, I don't think, except for Krakenation and Rylai's. Those are the 2 coaches I knew going into this season, and everybody else, I'm pretty sure, is new to me. That might be incorrect, but so I'm sorry if I actually know you. But so this is more of like a draft ranking. And now if this works, nice, we will see the power rankings coming out of week 2 and going into week 3. So we have the Boston Bisharps in first, the East Coast Excadrill in second, and the Cape Town Crocodiles in third. And over on the right, you can see how your position changed within the power rankings, or maybe it didn't at all. So again, I'm breezing through this. I don't think it's indicative of anything, but whatever. You guys like it? Sure, we're bringing it back. The only thing I will say about this is the Classic City Crush are 0-2. They lost both their matches, I'm pretty sure. And they moved up 6 places, which is more than anybody else. And I'm definitely maybe I'm being biased, but I think Monk played phenomenally well in both of those matches and just had unfortunate hacks or unfortunate circumstances arose where he had his victory stolen from him. So I really think Monk can do well because his prep seems really good and his gameplay seems really good. He's just coming up barely short. His team is failing him when it counts. He's not failing his team, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's the only thing I'll say. Quick shout out to Monk. You're doing great. So let's just go into my predictions, starting with my past predictions for week 2. Let's see how I did. So, not that bad. I got 5 out of 8, which is barely above half. I'll take it. I feel a little dirty doing this because 2 of my correct answers are actually forfeits, and there's no skill involved in guessing a forfeit correctly. It's just luck. So Rylai's didn't show up, and the Po-Town Nickit didn't show up, so that's why Daz and Jaskar both got free wins. At least at the time I'm recording this, they both got free wins. I don't know what will happen in the next 8 hours or so. But if I don't count those games, then the denominator for my record is not going to be a multiple of 8, which means I'm going to have to keep track of how many forfeits there have been, and it's just going to mess with my math, and I'm going to have to subtract that from the total, and it's going to be all bad. So hopefully there are no more forfeits, but if there are, I'm going to give myself the point if I get it right and not give myself the point if I get it wrong. So that's just going to be how I cover it from now on. Going through them, Undead Legion versus Pennsylvania Pawniards. This kind of annoyed me because the Pennsylvania Pawniards have 3 pretty scary dragons, and the Undead Legion, the only real dragon resist is Alchemy, and I guess Lucario, if you can count Lucario as a switch-in. And the Undead Legion didn't bring Alchemy, and then the Pennsylvania Pawniards didn't punish that, didn't have, like, powerful dragon moves. So that was kind of frustrating. The Undead Legion got a narrow win because Milotic is just too fat, basically, is what it boiled down to. But it kind of hurt me to get that prediction wrong, I will say. Sort of similarly, the Raleigh Rotoms versus the Cape Town Crocodiles. I talked about this in Best Match, but Pokeboy looked like he was ahead and looked like he had it and was playing really well, and then he just threw it away. He just let his win condition die for no reason, and ended up losing because of that. So that kind of sucked, and I felt like I could have gotten that one right if Pokeboy had been a little more aggressive with his plays and a little more wise about how he's using his win condition, Draco Zolt. But whatever. And finally, Chicago Flash Fire versus Boston Bisharps. I was way wrong about this matchup. Like I said, Krakenation brutalized Pisces. It was pretty rough, and I definitely got a fat L there. So I will take that with grace. Fine. And then my week 3 predictions to wrap up this video. I have the Undead Legion beating the Carolina Cinderaces because the Cinderaces draft is... it's bad, in a word. The draft is bad, and Stinger is not going to be able to do well with it. Clearly, as we've seen, if you're getting 6-0'd by a Hail team, and you forget what Slush Rush is, you're going to have problems. And I think the Undead Legion are just going to get a free win, basically. But please, prove me wrong. The Rosa Raiders versus the Raleigh Rotoms. I'm giving it to Pokeboy again. You better not let me down. The matchup looks good. And I feel like the Raleigh Rotoms lost a game they could have won. And the Rosa Raiders just got a free win because the Full Metal Alchemy were just playing poorly. So I think Pokeboy's draft has what it takes to overwhelm the Rosa Raiders. Please don't let me down again, Pokeboy, or I'm gonna find you. Next, we have Rylai's taking out Jaskar. So I have the San Diego Wild Chargers beating the London Finion. This one's hard for me to call because both of these coaches have only played one match. They both were involved in a forfeit for this past week. So I'm mostly looking at their performances and their drafts, and they both played badly week 1, except Rylai's got a win. And then, so if I'm just looking at the drafts, I have to give it to Rylai's. I think Ditto's going to make it hard, but they just have so much offensive pressure, and I don't know if Rotom and Kaparaja can really compete with that, but I guess we'll see. I have Monk. I haven't rooted for Monk yet, and he's lost. He lost, but I want to root for him here versus the Chicago Flash Fire. Even though I have him lower in the power rankings, I really believe that Monk is a talented player, and I think that Pisces might be on tilt from that Boston Bisharps loss because that was rough. So I'm giving it to the Classic City Crush for week 3. And on the other side here, I have the Resort City Marshadows beating the Pennsylvania Pawniards, just because I gotta believe in Hail. I gotta believe in it. And the Pennsylvania Pawniards have 3 dragons and not a lot of ways to deal with ice types, so I'm gonna give it to the Resort City Marshadows. I'm obviously giving it to the Cape Town Crocodiles because the Full Metal Alchemy are just all over the place. Gen Inc. off is either new to competitive battling or new to league battling, draft-based battling, whatever he's new to, he still needs to find his stride, and he is clearly not doing that, so far at least, and I don't think that's going to change going into week 3, especially against such a talented player as it's Bruno. So, pretty easy pick for me there. I have Daz beating the Po-Town Nicket. Again, this is hard to call because I only saw their week 1 matches because week 2 they're both involved in a forfeit. However, Daz only lost in week 1 because he just got destroyed by the East Coast Excadrill, which is a super offensive draft that he couldn't really take on, it seemed, and I don't think that's super indicative of his overall talent, and I still think his draft is strong, and I think he did better than Skull Bunny did week 1. So I'm giving it to the Halifax Hydreigons. And then finally, I gotta root for the East Coast Excadrill versus the Boston Bisharps. I gotta root for the underdog. I just put Krakenation in the #1 seed for power rankings. and I think Nala is number 2. So I really hope this is a fun match. I think it's going to be intense. I think it's going to be a firefight, a dogfight, and I got to root for the underdog. So I think both these coaches are very talented. Nala's draft is definitely more predictable and potentially exploitable, especially by a seasoned veteran like Krakenation. But still, Nala, the X Factor. Let's see it. Prove me right in week 3, please God, so I don't have to deal with Krakenation flaming me again. But anyways, that's going to do it for Sip of the Kraken Cup week 2. Thank you very much for watching. Leave any suggestions down below. What you liked, what you didn't like, please tell me. I can make adjustments moving forward. Again, if you want more of my thoughts, if you're not tired of me yet, you can go into the description and check out that Word document. It should have all the analysis you could possibly want, except about the forfeits because I can't analyze this. Regardless, this has been Entei, and Krakenation out.